Welcome to another in the series of virtual walks by the Great Yarmouth Heritage Guides. This walk will take us along part of North Drive and on to Marine Parade or the Golden Mile. The walk will start at the entrance to the Wellsley Recreation Ground in Sandown Road, and then on to North Drive and the arched entrance to the Waterways. The remaining part of the walk follows southwards along North Drive to the junction of Regent Road, and then to Marine Parade towards Wellington Pier. Along the route there will be mention of the Wellsley Recreation Ground, the Waterways, the Revolving Tower, the Aquarium, Britannia Pier, the Marina, the Hippodrome, Wellington Pier and Winter Gardens, and finally Merryvale. The real-life walk done by the Heritage Guides is much the same route, but our virtual walk has a few topics not covered by the real-life version. We start the walk in Sandown Road at the entrance to the Wellsley Recreation Ground. In 1885, the local council decided that North Deans was an underused area of the town and voted to create a 7.5-acre site for recreation. By 1888, the ground had developed into a running track and playing field, with various sporting and athletic events taking place quite regularly. After another few years, it was decided to construct a grandstand in the grounds, which was officially opened in 1892, having been designed by John Cockerill, a man who has left a significant architectural legacy throughout the town. It's now Grade 2 listed and is the oldest football and sports grandstand in the United Kingdom. The ground itself is named the Wellsley Recreation Ground after Wellsley Road that runs parallel to it on its west side. In the manner that many roads and prominent places are often named, Wellsley is a tribute to Sir Arthur Wellsley, otherwise known as the Duke of Wellington, famous for his leadership in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The town's other acknowledgements of the Duke are the Wellington Pier and Wellington Place in the centre of the town. Moving just a little way along Sandown Road to the junction with North Drive, we cross the road and find ourselves at the entrance to the Waterways. This is not the original entrance, the first main entrance being roughly halfway along the Waterways and facing the road, although there were and still are several other smaller entrances around the periphery of the gardens. The Waterways were built as part of a job creation scheme in the mid-1920s, when post-war employment was exceptionally low. Great Yarmouth suffered particularly because the massive export of fish to parts of Europe and Russia had declined to a very low level. The name Venetian was never officially added to the Waterways name, but became adopted because of their canal-like nature and bridges that resembled the design of the Rialto Bridge in Venice. The iconic sundial in the original Rose Garden is often featured in photographs and postcards of the 1930s and remains to this day. It's made from codestone, a refractory material containing clay, flint and glass, which is exceptionally weather-resistant. The original Britannia that tops the monument column in the town, and many of the statues adorning Buckingham Palace, are also codestone. The rather clumsily hand-carved inscription is difficult to read, but is a short poem often used on sundials. Written by the Irish poet Richard Sheridan, it reads, "Love gilds the hours, unfolds the flowers of passing days. Where love is all, no shadows fall, the sunshine stays." Walking southwards now in the direction of Britannia Pier, we pass the Imperial Hotel. This was one of the first hotels to cater for summer visitors in this part of the town. Built around 1908, it was known as the Imperial Boarding Establishment of Mrs. Figg, and in the second decade of the last century, her charges were about £2 per person per week, something like £250 today. To the right of the Imperial Hotel is the Fursdown Hotel, also built around the same time, but as the nursing institution for the training of nurses. By 1927 it had become a nursing home, and eventually a hotel. Walking towards the junction with Euston Road, we stop before reaching the one-time Royal Aquarium. In the late 1800s, just to the right of the junction were two unusual entertainments for the summer visitors. These had been allowed by the council on condition that they were silent, using no motorised form of propulsion in order to maintain the decorum of the area. The first was the Hotchkiss Bicycle Railway, where bicycle-like vehicles were ridden along fixed tracks and propelled by the riders using pedals. The second was a larger construction known as Thompson's Patent Gravity Switchback Railway, which was a small roller coaster push-started by one operator at one end of the track and returned by another operator at the opposite end as he made it switch back for its return journey. Just a few paces further on, and standing a very short distance north of the public toilets, opposite the old Royal Aquarium, was the revolving tower, the first of its kind in the country. It was an ironwork tower about 150 feet tall that had a revolving viewing gallery. Mr. Warwick had seen the idea in New Jersey in America and introduced it to the UK, building several throughout the country. The revolving gallery was raised and lowered with the assistance of counterweights and a steam engine. Up to 200 people at a time could be taken up the tower to view the full 360 degrees of Norfolk landscape and sea views. The tower was constructed in 1897, but a failing mechanism and events of World War II saw it taken down in 1941. A little way on, just before arriving at Britannia Pier, stood one of several performance rings. Another was at the site of the marina. This performance ring was erected on the beach in 1897, and for several years thereafter, since it was of wooden construction and could be broken down for storing in the winter months. It had a capacity of 2,000, and the audience would have been entertained by the Jubilee minstrels. After closing in 1910, a fire at the storage warehouse in 1911 destroyed the entire wooden ring and all the associated equipment, putting a final end to this particular arm of the town's summer entertainment. Also seen from this point is what is now a cinema, but was originally an aquarium. It was opened in 1875 to house massive fish tanks, bars, and a restaurant that would cater for 1,000 people. There was a roller skating rink on the roof, and it was planned to build a huge glass conservatory where the current car park is situated. The extension was never built, and the business was only a partial success, eventually leading to the building being converted into a theatre by 1883, and then later a cinema complex. The first real holiday variety show was put on here in 1948, featuring Johnny Risco, a comedian of the time. It was called Holiday Merry-Go-Round. The aquarium is covered in more detail on one of the real-life heritage walks when circumstances allow. A short walk further takes us to the concourse at the front of Britannia Pier, which now looks very different from its first beginnings in 1858. Originally a simple but elegant frontage, the pier was constructed in Victorian times purely for enjoyment. Taking the sea air and showing off your best holiday outfits while strolling on the pier and promenade were exactly what summer days were meant for. The pier developed over the years, but suffered ship collisions and several fires of its numerous pavilions, the last and largest being in 1954. The current theatre replaced an elaborate pavilion and opened in 1957. It was built to broadcast standards and in the 1960s and 70s played host to BBC Seaside special variety shows. Keeping to the eastern side of the road, we now walk a good distance to the site of the marina. At the time of this recording, the leisure centre of some 40 years is being demolished to be replaced by a new and more modern facility in 2021. The site, however, has been a place of leisure and entertainment since 1881, when a stage and eventually a concert ring, similar to the one mentioned earlier, played host to singers and performers of the time. In the early 1930s, a wooden concert hall replaced the open-air ring, but soon closed in 1934. It was followed by a permanent open-air theatre with seating for 3,000 in 1937. Adjacent to the theatre was a large swimming pool, making the whole complex a major point of leisure and entertainment until the 1970s. In 1979, the whole area was cleared and a new sports and leisure complex put in place, opening in 1981, and now also in the throes of replacement. Walking further in the direction of Wellington Pier and stopping opposite the brightly lit frontage of the amusement arcades, we arrive at the Hippodrome Circus. This was opened in 1903 and was designed by Ralph Scott Cockrell, son of John Cockrell, who was mentioned earlier. The music you can hear in the background has been associated with circus for around 100 years and conveys a sense of spectacle. It was composed by Czechoslovakian composer Julius Fučík in 1897, but was rearranged by a Canadian, Louis-Philippe Laurendeau, for a small band. It's known by several titles, but usually Entry of the Gladiators, and played as a screamer march, a fast march for circuses. The circus is covered in more detail in one of the real-life walks, but this virtual walk will let you in on the secret of its truly spectacular water-filled circus ring. The ring is the international standard of 42 feet or 12.8 metres in diameter, originally derived from the optimum circle around which a horse and rider could comfortably travel. Around the periphery of the ring are several huge steel pins connected to a lever system, and on which rests the giant wooden platform that supports the performers. Underneath this is 4.5 feet of water, which is always present and heated, thus providing some warmth for both swimmers and heat for the otherwise unheated auditorium. When the lever is pulled by the operator standing at the edge of the ring, the pins retract and allow a natural descent of the platform into the water until it reaches the bottom. The water passes between the wooden planks and controls the speed of descent. At the end of the water spectacle, there is no motorized mechanism to return the platform. This is done by a team of people using hand-cranked winches and careful coordination to lift the platform evenly. The water-filled ring is one of only 3 in the world and is a masterpiece of Edwardian engineering. So now we will walk further, passing the Royal Hotel, where in the mid-1800s Charles Dickens stayed whilst writing David Copperfield. His book is based on his life's experiences, but is not quite an autobiography. The book has strong connections with Great Yarmouth. Dickens' character, Ham Peggotty, is based on James Sharman, a Yarmouth man who served on the Victory at the Battle of Trafalgar, and who assisted Nelson after he was shot by a French sniper. Sharman later became the keeper of the monument dedicated to Nelson that is situated on South Denes, and living in a small, purpose-built caretaker's cottage close by. Arriving then at the Winter Gardens and Wellington Pier, we could cover a huge amount of heritage history from just this one spot. To whet your appetite, the Shaddingfield Lodge, now a casino, the Masonic Lodge, the Carlton Hotel, the Naval Hospital, the Royal Hotel, King's Road, Wellington Pier and Winter Gardens all have a story to tell. On this walk, we will focus on the pier and the Winter Gardens. The pier was built in 1853 after the 2 times Mayor Charles Palmer had lobbied the council for several years. He asked for a fitting tribute to the Duke of Wellington, following Wellington's success at Waterloo, and since the town had already acknowledged another national hero, Admiral Lord Nelson, in the form of the monument column at South Denes. The Wellington Pier Company was formed and the pier duly constructed. By making a small charge to access the pier, purely for strolling and taking the sea air, even in the first year of opening, a profit of £500 was made, roughly £70,000 at today's rate. Profits fell after the competition of Britannia Pier had its impact from 1858 onwards, and the success of the pier has waxed and waned over the years, but the adjacent gardens and bandstand were a delight for thousands. Many local people will remember the roller skating rink and theatre that had a peak of success in the 1960s and 70s, when well-known stars of radio and TV appeared with 2 shows every evening. Following problems with the pier and the fabric of the theatre, the pier was shortened and a replacement place of entertainment and leisure was built in the style of the original at the start of this century. The adjacent iron and glass Winter Gardens spent a few years in Torquay before finding their current home in Great Yarmouth. In 1903 they were bought by the council and transported from Torquay around the coast on barges. And during dismantling and reconstruction, we're told that not a single pane of glass was broken. Although the Winter Gardens had failed to pay their way in Torquay, they became more successful in Great Yarmouth, until in recent years their upkeep became unsustainable. They've been used for all manner of entertainments such as tea dances, roller skating, a Tyrolean-style beer garden, concerts and shows. Now a Grade 2 listed building and currently unused, this Victorian marvel waits to see what its future holds in store. Just a few paces further south is the miniature world of Merryvale. 3 brothers born between 1914 and 1922 in Ormskirk, Lancashire, moved with their family to the seaside town of Southport on the coast just 8 miles away. Edward, William and Thomas Dobbins became masters of creating miniature worlds, but the first of them was Sergeant Thomas Dobbins, a trained architect, whose life was turned upside down by his active service at Dunkirk in World War II, and the serious wounds he sustained in North Africa not long afterwards. He created the first Merryvale in Southport, which opened in 1957, and model villages became his life's work. He was ably assisted by his two brothers. The model village grew ever larger, and the three brothers had a team of 20 people tending the gardens and making the models. Tom later moved to Torquay in Devon and launched his Babbacombe Model Village in 1963. Edward, better known as Harry from his second name Henry, continued to run Merryvale in Southport. Bill did a similar move southwards, and after marrying Muriel in Southport, created and opened Merryvale, Great Yarmouth, in 1961. Bill died in the town in 1999 and left his truly amazing legacy of Merryvale for all to enjoy to the present day. It's been lovingly cared for and enhanced, with new and ambitious models being added over the years, making it one of the town's most popular attractions for people of all ages. So from the sports ground with the oldest grandstand to the village with one of the smallest, our walk has come to an end. Join us if you can on one of our real-life heritage walks when they next become available, and see and hear much more about Great Yarmouth's rich and varied history.